Most people believe their lives are shaped by dramatic events, by sudden breakthroughs, by lucky opportunities, by moments of crisis that force transformation. But this is not how destiny is built. Destiny is shaped quietly, almost invisibly, in the small decisions you repeat every day. And the most dangerous decision of all is the decision to wait. The illusion of tomorrow has destroyed more potential than failure ever could. Tomorrow feels safe. Tomorrow feels responsible. Tomorrow feels like you are still in control. But tomorrow is a comfortable lie that steals your power while convincing you that you still have time. You wake up with good intentions. You tell yourself you will start improving your body, your discipline, your mindset. You promise that you will fix your habits, that you will confront what you have been avoiding, that you will become serious about your life. But when the moment comes to act, you negotiate, you delay, you soften your commitment, you say, not today, I'm not ready, I need more clarity, I need more motivation. And so the day passes, nothing dramatic happens. There is no lightning in the sky, there is no punishment, there is just another quiet surrender. This is how people lose years. The illusion of tomorrow is powerful because it does not look dangerous, it feels harmless. You tell yourself that one day will not matter, but understand this deeply. One day repeated becomes a week repeated becomes a month repeated becomes a year, and 1 year of delay becomes a life you do not recognize. The tragedy is not that people fail. The tragedy is that they slowly become comfortable with mediocrity while convincing themselves they are still on the way. February 25th is not magical. It is not different from any other date on the calendar. The sun will rise the same way. The world will move at the same speed. But what makes a day powerful is not the date itself. It is the decision attached to it. A turning point is not something that happens to you. It is something you declare. It is a line drawn in the sand where you say, enough. And most people never draw that line. They keep shifting it forward. They keep telling themselves, they will start next week, next month, next year. Ask yourself honestly, how many times have you said you would change? How many times have you felt a surge of determination only to let it dissolve into routine? How many times have you promised yourself that you would become more disciplined, more focused, more serious, and then allowed comfort to win? You are not lacking intelligence. You are not lacking information. You are lacking urgency. When there is no urgency, there is no movement. And when there is no movement, there is slow decay. The illusion of tomorrow removes urgency. It whispers to you, relax, you have time. It convinces you that there is always another chance. But life does not operate on your assumptions. Time is not something you own. It is something you are given, and it can be taken without warning. You have already lived a certain number of days. You do not know how many remain, yet you behave as if the supply is infinite. This is unconscious living. To wake up means to become aware of the cost of delay. Every time you postpone discipline, you strengthen weakness. Every time you ignore what needs to be done, you reinforce avoidance. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you build a version of yourself that is less capable, less resilient, less powerful. And then you wonder why you feel stuck. You feel stuck because you are divided. One part of you desires greatness. It wants strength, clarity, purpose. It wants to be respected. It wants to be proud when you look in the mirror. But another part of you wants ease. It wants pleasure. It wants distraction. It wants to avoid discomfort. These two parts are in conflict every single day. And the side that wins is the side you feed. When you say tomorrow, you feed the weaker side. You tell it, it's okay. We don't have to push. We don't have to suffer. We don't have to confront ourselves. And slowly, that side grows stronger. The disciplined side becomes quieter. The ambitious side becomes tired. Eventually, you begin to identify with the weaker voice. You start calling it your personality. You say, that's just how I am, but it is not who you are. It is who you have practiced being. Identity is built through repetition. If you repeatedly delay action, you become someone who delays action. If you repeatedly avoid responsibility, you become someone who avoids responsibility. And this identity shapes your future more than any external obstacle ever could. February 25th can be your turning point, not because the date has power, but because you decide that the illusion ends here. You decide that tomorrow is no longer your escape. You decide that when something needs to be done, you do it now. Not when you feel like it, not when it is convenient, not when it is comfortable. Now. This is how self-respect is built. Self-respect does not come from positive thinking. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. Every time you say you will do something and you follow through, you strengthen your internal foundation. Every time you break your word to yourself, you weaken it. And over time, you either become someone you trust or someone you doubt. Many people struggle with confidence. They search for techniques, for affirmations, for external validation. But confidence is simple. It is the natural result of consistent action aligned with your commitments. When you stop delaying and start executing, confidence grows automatically. The illusion of tomorrow keeps you from building that confidence. It keeps you in a cycle of intention without action. And intention without action becomes frustration. You begin to feel restless. You feel capable of more, but you are not producing more. This gap between potential and performance creates inner tension. And if that tension is not resolved through disciplined action, it turns into self-criticism. You start questioning yourself. You start comparing yourself to others. You start feeling behind. But the solution has always been simple. Close the gap. Act today. Do not underestimate the power of a single decisive day. History in your personal life can change in one moment of clarity. One decision to wake up earlier, one decision to train when you do not feel like it, one decision to focus instead of scrolling, one decision to have the difficult conversation, one decision to stop tolerating your own excuses. It doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No one applauds. No one may even notice. But internally, something shifts. You begin to see yourself differently. You begin to realize that you are not a victim of circumstances. You are the architect of your standards. And standards determine destiny. If your standard is I act when I feel motivated, your life will always be unstable. Motivation fluctuates. Emotion fluctuates. Energy fluctuates. But if your standard is I act because it is necessary, then your progress becomes stable. You remove emotion from the decision. You replace negotiation with execution. This is maturity. The illusion of tomorrow keeps you immature. It keeps you dependent on feelings. It keeps you reactive instead of proactive. It keeps you waiting for a perfect state that will never arrive. There is no perfect moment. There is only the present one. And the present moment is always slightly uncomfortable when growth is required. That discomfort is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that you are at the edge of expansion. If you step back, you remain small. If you step forward, you grow. February 25th can be the day you stop stepping back. Not because you are suddenly fearless, not because all doubt disappears, but because you understand that delay is more painful than discipline. Regret is heavier than effort, and wasted time is more expensive than temporary discomfort. Look ahead 5 years. Imagine continuing exactly as you are. Same habits, same excuses, same delays. Where will you be? How will you feel? What opportunities will have passed? What version of yourself will remain unrealized? Now imagine choosing differently, starting today. Imagine 5 years of consistent discipline, 5 years of acting immediately on what needs to be done, 5 years of refusing to postpone growth. The difference between those two futures is not talent, it is timing. It is whether you act now or later. Later is a trap. Later becomes never for most people. So if there must be a turning point, let it be now. Let February 25th represent the death of postponement. Let it symbolize the end of internal negotiation. Let it be the day you say, I no longer wait to become who I know I can be. because life will not beg you to rise. Opportunity will not chase you forever. Energy will not remain at its current level indefinitely. The window you have right now, with your current health, your current awareness, your current chance, is temporary. Wake up before it is too late does not mean panic. It means awareness. It means understanding that every day you delay is a day you cannot recover. Time moves in one direction, and once it passes, it becomes memory, not possibility. You cannot control everything. You cannot predict every outcome, but you can control whether you act today. That is enough. The illusion of tomorrow ends the moment you decide that today is non-negotiable. And when today becomes non-negotiable, your life begins to transform, quietly, steadily, powerfully, not because the world changed, but because you did. You say you want change. You say you are ready for a new chapter. You say you are tired of repeating the same patterns, tired of feeling stuck, tired of watching others move forward while you remain in the same place. But when discomfort appears, you retreat. When pressure rises, you hesitate. When sacrifice is required, you negotiate. This is the contradiction that keeps you trapped. You desire transformation, but you resist the very process that creates it. Pain is not an obstacle to your growth. Pain is the doorway. Every meaningful shift in your life will demand something from you. It will demand your comfort. It will demand your old habits. It will demand the version of you that has grown attached to ease. And if you are not willing to let that version of yourself die, you cannot be reborn into something stronger. February 25th must become your confrontation day, not with the world, but with yourself. Stop looking outward for the reason you are not progressing. Stop blaming circumstances, people, timing, or luck. The greatest barrier between you and your next level is your tolerance for comfort. You have built routines that protect you from discomfort. You scroll instead of studying. You sleep instead of correcting. You distract yourself instead of developing yourself. And every time you do this, you choose short-term relief over long-term power. Understand this clearly. Comfort is seductive because it feels safe, but it is slowly eroding your strength. Your body grows through resistance. When you train, your muscles are stressed. Fibers tear. There is soreness. There is fatigue. But that stress is precisely what signals growth. Without resistance, there is no adaptation. Without adaptation, there is stagnation. The same principle applies to your mind, your discipline, your character. If you avoid mental and emotional resistance, you remain fragile. Fragility is dangerous. A fragile mind breaks under pressure. A fragile will collapses when challenged. A fragile identity depends on perfect conditions. But life does not promise perfect conditions. It promises uncertainty, change, and difficulty. If you are not training yourself to endure discomfort voluntarily, life will eventually force it upon you involuntarily. You can choose controlled pain now or uncontrolled pain later. Controlled pain is waking up early when you do not feel like it. It is training when your body is tired. It is studying when others are relaxing. It is having difficult conversations instead of avoiding them. It is holding yourself accountable instead of making excuses. Uncontrolled pain is regret. It is missed opportunities. It is watching your potential fade. It is realizing too late that you had the chance to act, but you chose ease instead. Which pain do you prefer? Most people unconsciously choose the second one because it is delayed. They do not feel it immediately. They feel immediate comfort, and the long-term cost is hidden. But hidden costs are still costs, and they accumulate silently. You must reverse your relationship with pain. Instead of seeing it as a threat, see it as a teacher. Instead of running from it, move toward it with awareness. When something feels difficult, ask yourself, is this difficulty destructive or is it developmental? Is this pain harming me or is it shaping me? The pain of discipline is developmental. The pain of growth is developmental. The pain of confronting your weaknesses is developmental. It is shaping your character. It is strengthening your resolve. It is building resilience that comfort can never give you. February 25th can mark the day you stop asking, how can I avoid discomfort, and start asking, what discomfort must I embrace to evolve? There is a version of you that you admire, stronger, sharper, more focused, more disciplined. That version is not created by motivation. It is created by repeated exposure to controlled hardship. Every time you choose the harder but correct action, you cast a vote for that stronger identity. But understand this: transformation requires the death of your old patterns. The old you loves distraction. The old you seeks validation. The old you wants recognition without preparation. The old you wants results without sacrifice. If February 25th is to be a turning point, that old identity cannot continue to dominate your decisions. Something must end. Your habit of procrastination must end. Your addiction to comfort must end. Your tolerance for mediocrity must end. Not gradually, not someday. Decisively. This does not mean becoming extreme or reckless. It means becoming intentional. It means when you feel resistance towards something that you know is necessary, you do not interpret that resistance as a stop sign. You interpret it as a signal that growth is near. Most people misread resistance. They think, if it feels hard, maybe it's not for me. But the truth is often the opposite. If it feels hard, it might be exactly what you need. The moment before growth feels like pressure. The moment before breakthrough feels like strain. The moment before elevation feels like instability. If you quit in those moments, you never cross the threshold. Think about every time you have grown in your life. It was uncomfortable. It stretched you. It demanded that you become someone slightly different. You had to let go of something familiar. And yet, once you crossed that uncomfortable phase, you never wished to go back to your weaker version. Why? Because strength feels better than comfort in the long run. Comfort feels good now, but weakens you later. Strength feels uncomfortable now, but empowers you later. You must train yourself to prioritize later over now. This is maturity. This is discipline. This is power. On February 25th, do not look for inspiration. Look for resistance. Identify what you have been avoiding. Identify the conversation you need to have, the habit you need to eliminate, the routine you need to build, the responsibility you need to accept. And instead of hesitating, move directly toward it. That movement is transformation in action. Do not wait to feel ready. Readiness is often a myth. Action creates readiness. When you step into discomfort, your nervous system adapts. Your confidence expands. Your tolerance increases. The things that once felt impossible begin to feel manageable. But if you constantly avoid discomfort, your tolerance shrinks. Small challenges feel overwhelming. Minor obstacles feel catastrophic. You become mentally weaker without realizing it. Your environment is not the main problem. Your lack of voluntary hardship is. If you want to rise above the average, you must live slightly differently than the average. The average person seeks comfort at every opportunity. The disciplined person seeks growth at every opportunity. That is the difference. This does not mean you must suffer endlessly. It means you must stop escaping necessary struggle. There is a difference between unnecessary suffering and meaningful effort. Learn to distinguish the two. Eliminate what drains you without purpose. Embrace what strengthens you with purpose. When you feel the urge to quit, stay a little longer. When you feel the urge to postpone, act immediately. When you feel doubt, move anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that growth matters more than fear. Pain will visit your life regardless. The only question is whether it finds you prepared or unprepared. February 25 can be the day you begin preparing yourself deliberately. The day you stop seeing discomfort as an enemy and start recognizing it as a forge. Steel is not shaped in comfort. It is shaped in fire. And you are no different. Inside you is strength that has not been activated. Discipline that has not been tested. Focus that has not been sharpened. But these qualities do not emerge in ease. They emerge in resistance. So when the alarm rings and you want to stay in bed, that is the moment. When you want to avoid training, that is the moment. When you want to distract yourself instead of working, that is the moment. These small crossroads are where identity is decided. Do not look for grand opportunities to prove yourself. Prove yourself in the small battles. Win the morning, win the hour, win the decision in front of you. Each small victory builds momentum. Momentum builds belief. Belief builds transformation. You are not weak because you feel discomfort. You are weak only if you consistently run from it. Let February 25th be the day you stop running. Stand still in the presence of difficulty. Breathe, accept the pressure, and step forward anyway. The discomfort will not destroy you. It will refine you. And one day you will look back at this phase, at the resistance, at the strain, at the sacrifice, and you will realize that it was never your enemy. It was the gatekeeper. And because you chose to walk through the gate instead of retreating, you became someone stronger than you ever imagined. Most people misunderstand responsibility. They see it as pressure, as burden, as something heavy placed on their shoulders. They think responsibility limits freedom. They think it steals relaxation, removes excuses, demands too much. So they avoid it, they delay it, they share it, they look for someone else to carry it. And in doing so, they slowly give away their power. But responsibility is not a burden. Irresponsibility is. When you refuse to take responsibility for your life, you are forced to live at the mercy of circumstances. You blame the economy, you blame your family, you blame your past, you blame your lack of opportunity, you blame your environment, and every time you blame, you hand over control. You tell yourself, LF, my life is determined by forces outside of me. And if that is true, then you are powerless. That is the real weight. There is nothing heavier than feeling powerless in your own life. Nothing more suffocating than believing that your results are determined by something you cannot influence. This is why so many people feel stuck, not because they lack ability, but because they have trained themselves to avoid ownership. Ownership is freedom. February 25th can become the day you reclaim that freedom. The moment you say, this is my life, my results are my responsibility, something shifts inside you. You stop waiting, you stop complaining, you stop explaining, you begin acting. Because once something is yours, fully yours, you either improve it or you accept it. There is no middle ground. Responsibility removes illusion. It forces clarity. If your body is unhealthy and you take responsibility, you stop blaming genetics and start adjusting habits. If your finances are unstable and you take responsibility, you stop blaming the system and start improving skills. If your mind is distracted and you take responsibility, you stop blaming technology and start controlling your attention. Responsibility does not mean everything is your fault. It means everything is your response. You cannot control every event, but you can control how you respond to every event. And your response shapes your trajectory more than the event itself. There are people who face adversity and rise. There are people who face smaller obstacles and collapse. The difference is not circumstance, it is responsibility. One says, why is this happening to me? The other says, given the situation, what will I do now? That second question is power. When you take responsibility, you stop being a victim of your story and start becoming the author. You stop replaying what went wrong and start writing what comes next. This is why responsibility feels intense at first, because it removes your excuses. And excuses are comfortable. Excuses protect your ego. They allow you to fail without confronting your own standards. They allow you to remain average without feeling fully accountable for it. But they also keep you small. The moment you remove excuses, you are exposed. You see clearly where you lack discipline. You see where you have been inconsistent. You see where you have settled. And that clarity can feel uncomfortable. But that discomfort is growth. February 25th must become a day of radical honesty. Number drama, no self-hate, no exaggeration, just clear assessment. Where are you strong? Where are you weak? Where are you wasting time? Where are you pretending to try instead of truly committing? Do not soften the truth. Truth is not your enemy. Truth is your foundation. If you lie to yourself, you build your life on instability. If you are honest with yourself, even when it is uncomfortable, you build on solid ground. Responsibility is not about guilt. It is about direction. Guilt looks backward and says, I should have done better. Responsibility looks forward and says, I will do better. Guilt drains energy. Responsibility channels energy. There is a powerful shift that happens when you fully accept responsibility for your standards. You stop negotiating with your lower self. You stop saying, it's okay, just this once. You stop tolerating behaviors that contradict your goals. Standards are the invisible boundaries that shape your life. If your standard for effort is low, your results will reflect that. If your standard for discipline is inconsistent, your progress will be unstable. If your standard for focus is weak, your performance will suffer. But when you raise your standards, your behavior begins to align automatically. Not perfectly, not immediately, but steadily. February 25th can be the day you raise them, not loudly, not publicly, quietly, internally. You decide, from this point forward, I do not skip what matters. I do not delay what is necessary. I do not blame what I can influence. This is maturity. Many people want freedom without responsibility. They want results without ownership. They want respect without discipline. But these things are inseparable. True freedom comes from self-mastery. And self-mastery begins with ownership. If you cannot control your habits, you are not free. If you cannot control your reactions, you are not free. If your emotions dictate your discipline, you are not free. You are reactive. Responsibility makes you proactive. Instead of reacting to the day, you design it. Instead of reacting to problems, you prepare for them. Instead of reacting to criticism, you evaluate it. You become stable, grounded, intentional. There is calm power in someone who takes responsibility. They do not argue with reality, they adjust. They do not complain about difficulty, they train. They do not dramatize setbacks, they learn. This is the mindset that builds exceptional lives. Average people explain why something did not work. Exceptional people ask what they can improve. Average people wait for better conditions. Exceptional people create better conditions through action. The difference is not talent, it is ownership. Ownership removes the need for motivation. Because once something is your responsibility, you do not ask whether you feel like doing it. You simply do it. A parent does not ask if they feel motivated to care for their child. They act because it is their responsibility. A professional does not ask if they feel inspired to show up. They show up because it is required. When you treat your growth with that same seriousness, your results change. Imagine if you treated your health as non-negotiable responsibility. Imagine if you treated your goals as non-negotiable responsibility. Imagine if you treated your time as non-negotiable responsibility. Your behavior would shift immediately. Responsibility simplifies your life. It removes confusion. It removes endless internal debate. The question is no longer, should I? The question becomes, how will I? It is about commitment moving forward. Responsibility is not a mood, it is an identity. When you identify as someone who takes ownership, you stop needing external pressure. You become self-regulating. You catch your own excuses. You correct your own drift. You hold yourself accountable even when no one is watching. That is power. And power feels lighter than avoidance ever did. Because when you avoid responsibility, you carry hidden anxiety. You know you are capable of more. You know you are not giving your best. That awareness sits in the background of your mind, creating tension. But when you step into ownership, that tension transforms into direction. Direction gives energy. When you know that your actions matter, you move with purpose. When you know that your choices shape your future, you become careful with them. You become intentional with your time. You become selective with your environment. You become disciplined with your focus. Responsibility sharpens you. It does not restrict you. It refines you. So on February 25th, stop asking who will help you. Stop asking who will guide you. Stop asking who will push you. Ask instead, what am I responsible for today? Then execute. Do not wait for recognition. Do not wait for praise. Responsibility is internal. It is silent. It is steady. And over time, it compounds. Small acts of ownership repeated daily create massive shifts. One disciplined morning, one honest self-evaluation, one corrected habit, one focused hour. These seem insignificant in isolation, but repeated consistently, they transform identity. You become someone reliable, not just to others, but to yourself. And that is where real freedom begins. Because when you trust yourself to act, to correct, to improve, you are no longer dependent on perfect circumstances. You are no longer waiting for rescue. You are no longer hoping for change. You are creating it. That is why responsibility is freedom. Not because it is easy, but because it gives you back control over the only thing that has ever truly been yours, your choices. And if February 25th becomes the day you fully accept that, then it will not just be another date. It will be the day you stopped drifting and started leading your own life.